All right, this is Beth Pelletieri from BP Coaching, and I'm here with Michele Lyman from Serenity Yoga. And I'm so excited to be talking with you about your yoga practice and how you're sort of integrating your work into the day-to-day during this awkward and slightly difficult time. So if someone is new to you and Serenity Yoga, what should they know about you?
Oh, yeah. So I have, I've owned Serenity now since 2012. So it's been a studio in South Hadley, Mass for quite a long time, almost 8 years. But I think the one thing they need to know about me and about the studio is that we are real. So I always use the tagline, real yoga, real bodies for real people. So the idea is that we want it to be accessible to everybody. This thing called life is really difficult, and the yoga tools and the meditation, the movement, the breath work, they can all help everybody in different ways. And so my whole goal is that I'm not a typical yogi. If you looked on Yoga Journal cover, or if you read, anything about yoga, you might see like a guru sitting on top of a mountain, tall, thin blondes from California. Like, I'm none of those things. I am a real person who uses the tools to just help me through life. And so I created a space that kind of reflects that.
That's beautiful. I love that so much, especially right now when we're all just sort of managing being ourselves.
That's right.
The idea is of having a space that sort of honors that is really beautiful.
Oh,
So my next question is, when you're in flow and when things are just moving for you, what are the things that you love doing? What makes you feel happy?
Oh, I love to run my business, which not a lot of yoga teachers will say. A lot of yoga teachers are yoga teachers, and then they also have this business to run if they own a studio. I absolutely love running my business. I love the different hats I wear. I love the different conversations I have to have with people. But I would say that really keeps me in the flow. So whenever I'm just sitting down and looking at my task list, it feels very easy for me to kind of decide what's next. I have a lot of teachers, about 13 or 14 teachers, and they all have wonderful ideas. And I used to get stuck in like decision making, like, oh, what if I make the wrong choice? But somewhere along the line, a friend said to me, like, you can't make you're the boss. Like, you can't make the wrong choice, like, just try it. And if it doesn't work, try something else. So I'm really into like listening to my intuition when it comes to new teachers to hire, conversations to have with students, or, trying new classes out at different times. It's always like, I just sit back, I listen, I wait for the response. And then it's like, oh yeah, well, let's try it at this time. So that's when I'm really, really in my flow. I also do love to teach yoga, of course. That's my second flow time, but really running the business is really where I flow the most.
I love that mindset shift too, of the like trying to make the right decision to just being like, it's my business. I get to play with it and see what comes up to the surface. That feels really inventive and honest for a time in which we are all seeing what sticks.
Yeah, right, exactly. Great point. I've never needed it more than I need it right now, for sure.
Well, what do you miss most about not being at Serenity?
Oh, I miss the people. I miss
Oh.
my community. So my whole thing has always been about creating a space where people can come together to practice and to share their experiences and just to get through this thing called life together. And I miss them so much. The space is beautiful and all of that, but I miss the people. I miss the conversations before. I miss the conversations after class. I miss the hugs. I miss seeing them interact with each other. I miss seeing them catch up with each other before class and after class. It's the community. I really just miss the physical aspect of the community. Now, we are able to kind of still do a little bit of that before and after each virtual class. So it's happening and people are still checking in, and that's lovely. But it's not quite the same when they're on a screen compared to when you can actually give somebody a hug and say hi and, how are you doing, and just really have that connection, and that's what I miss the most.
That's beautiful. I was going to ask you this question later, but now I'm going to ask it to you now, which is, if someone was small talking with you these days after class, what would you want to share?
Oh gosh. What would I want to share today? I probably would share that Oh, yeah, depending on what they wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
But if it was small talk about the day, I always love to hear what people are doing after class.
Mm.
Always love to know, like, where you headed, what are you doing? I think people sometimes think that's I'm looking for an invite because it's like, oh, I'm going to lunch. Do you want to join us? It's like, no, no, no. I just want to know what you're up to.
No.
You know, like, how did this class shift your perspective of the rest of the
Mm.
day? And that's kind of
That's a
where it
beautiful question.
comes from, like if you walked in feeling a certain way, you're walking out feeling a different way. Like, what are you up to for the rest of the day? I have a dear student who always tells me that she always leaves in kind of a meditative state, which is really sweet. And I always love to hear how she takes that with her for the rest of the day. So it's usually just like, what are you up to for the rest of the day? Tell me what you're doing. And yeah, and how you feeling? Yeah.
That's delightful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a nice question.
Mm-hmm.
So what has been the hardest part of COVID-19 for you as a person?
For me, I live alone. I do not have a roommate. I do not have a significant other. I do not have children. I do not have a pet. I do not have a fish. I do not have a bird. I do not have anything. So I am truly isolated alone. I am an extrovert by trade. And I'm also just like, as you can tell, like I just love being around other people.
Mm.
So this whole experience of isolating has been really roller coastery. There's a piece of me that is happy that I have time to myself to really dig in and kind of get quiet and rest. I haven't probably rested in like 4 years, kind of joking aside, but it's like I fill my time, I'm busy running the business or I'm meeting with friends or I'm doing family things. And it's like, oh wait, none of that can happen right now except the business. And I can't do that 24/7. So what am I doing in the meantime? Well, I'm reading books and I'm, journaling and I'm practicing more yoga, which is really beautiful. But then there's that other side of me that is just so sad and so missing human connection and just having that face-to-face contact. I mean, Zoom is, thank God for Zoom or conferencing or, any of the tools that we have right now. And it does not replace having that eye to eye, seeing into someone's heart and soul the way that you can when you're having a conversation with somebody. So I miss that very much. And I have my good days and my bad. They definitely seem to ebb and flow with the weather. So when the weather is beautiful, I seem to be okay. When the weather is not, I tend to be a little so yeah, that has been the hardest part for me, is kind of being isolated
Yeah.
and dealing with that and having the demons come up, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for, I think that's such a shared experience and
Yeah.
also such an individual, it's like both shared and so individual. And so I really appreciate you,
Oh, of
I don't
course.
know, sharing the hard stuff, because that's
Yeah.
part of what all this is about, is sort of honoring when it gets really hard.
Yeah, that's very true. Mm-hmm.
And in good news, it is supposed to just be sunny all week.
Yay! So then, yay! That makes me happy.
All of that is true, and also it is supposed to be a beautiful week ahead.
Yay! Okay, I'm happy. Yeah, the sun's shining today, so I'm happy today.
So you're in yoga and meditation work, and I would love for you to talk about, maybe if it feels comfortable or just in general, how you've been able to use sort of some of the tools in your toolbox to help you on those harder days, or when you don't feel like getting on your mat, or when it just feels like too much. There's that point sometimes when it feels like too much work to try to feel better. And
Yes.
that it's just really hard to put yourself in sort of a more honest place. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you sort of have been able to navigate those moments or pull out some of your experience at Serenity in those times.
Yeah. So it's all an experiment. So the one thing I do always try to remember is to be mindful of watching and being aware of how I feel. What I mean by that is, today was a day where I forced myself out of bed and I said, no, I ate really terribly yesterday. I've got to move my body. I know what makes me feel better and what doesn't, and what parts of my daily routine work for me and which ones don't. And so I got up, I worked out, I did the elliptical machine for like a half an hour, and then I stretched, I had a really good breakfast, and then I just did a really great yoga class with lots of meditation in there. I know that that makes me feel better. And I know that it's setting me up for a really lovely day ahead. I hope, anyway. And I'm aware of that. However, there are mornings when I wake up and I'm like, nope, I'm too tired. So I need to stay in bed. So I stay in bed and I watch how that impacts me for the rest of the day. And it's just having this like extra level of awareness. I will also say that, I am also the person that goes to the fridge and eats, 3 scoops of ice cream because I'm having a moment, or pours that extra beer after dinner, or opens that wine bottle. Like I said before, I'm a real person. So, excessive eating and, leaning into alcohol just to kind of help take the edge off on certain moments is also what I'm doing. I find that sometimes doesn't make me feel better. Like this morning after 3 scoops of ice cream and some heavy pasta meals yesterday, I kind of felt like crap. So I knew this morning I needed to move my body. And all of it is okay. And I think that's what we all need to remember. I joke with my friend Ellen a lot that I go on Facebook and it seems like everybody's just handling this COVID-19 thing just fine. They all have their beautiful memes and their little sayings and be good to yourself and all this stuff. And then they got the funny memes about the funny things that are going on. And it's like, okay, you know what? Everyone is not okay. This is nothing like we've ever experienced before. And I think remembering that it's okay to do whatever you need in that moment is key. So if that moment requires you to pour a glass of wine after a long day with the kiddos, then pour that glass of wine. And then just watch how you feel. How does it impact you? Did it make you feel better? Did it make you feel worse? Just watch, kind of see the pattern. And then be kind to yourself. I have a very loud judge. My judge is one of the loudest characters in my head. And when I do things that aren't yogic or that aren't, proper or whatever, my judge gets so loud. And I've been really trying to have conversations with her like, listen, this is not a time to be judgy. Like, I'm okay being not okay. And this is what I'm choosing. I'm choosing to have 3 scoops of ice cream right now. And we're going to be fine with that. And I'm going to love it up. So I've been really trying to be really kind, self-kindness, self-love, self-compassion, even when we don't want to be. So this is really hard stuff. This is harder than I think anybody has ever been through, from a global perspective. Obviously, we each have individual issues to deal with, but this is hard and it's unprecedented. We've never had to do this before. So it's new and uncharted territory and uncertain. And we just have to ebb and flow with it and watch the waves, ride them, just see what happens on the other side of them.
I loved the combination of things that you offered, which was, to me, this sort of being in the observer, so that you're really seeing yourself fully and with kindness and with compassion and allowing yourself to exist in the moment as you are. And then at the same time, this just immense sort of that there is no right and wrong, right? So I think it's so easy when we hit this observer mindset to then observe with judgment.
Yes.
So like in sort of watching ourselves, we then get judgy, as opposed to watching ourselves with self-love and compassion and then not being judgy. And so I feel like that is, tell me where I'm wrong, but I feel like that's what you shared there, which was to me such a beautiful reminder, which is like, is sort of how do we elevate and watch and be in that sort of be our best friend, be like, Sweetie Bug, you got it. And then allow ourselves to be in that moment, which is, as anyone, we're human, we're going to have different emotions and different feelings and different situations that come up at different times. And things are going to hit a little harder these days because we have a little bit less of a emotional buffer. And we're a little bit more sensitive. So just, that very kind observer.
Yep. Yes. And it's not always easy. Just because I say I'm doing it doesn't mean I do it all the time. And then to remember, like, well, it's not always easy, so we get right. Circle.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Or doing that, like, what would my best friend say to me about this moment? Like, that's she's going to be much nicer than
she's going to be much nicer than my judge. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Love it. So we talked about this a little bit, but I imagine there's people out there that maybe don't have a regular yoga practice or don't have a meditation practice, or their whole sense of routines are thrown off right now. So it's just hard to make space. And so it's hard to, take a morning to do a yoga class or spend time on the elliptical. So for those folks who are really just trying to find like small, manageable ways to sink back into self, what might you tell them?
So I think the first thing to always remember is that there is no time requirement for it, right? So if you feel like I can't get on my mat today, or I can't meditate today, or I can't insert thing here today, I can't work out today, I can't walk, it's cloudy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, like there's no time limit, right? So it doesn't mean you don't have to do something. I always say, like, even if you just like, if you have a meditation practice or a yoga practice, even if you sit for 2 or 3 minutes, I mean, that's enough to get you back to center. And the one thing I always tell folks to do regardless is, if you're feeling anxious, well, there's 2 things. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you need a moment to kind of come back, to get grounded, to feel like I can't make a decision because I'm so scattered, there are 2 things you can do. And the first one is super easy. It's bringing your awareness to your breath and taking 3 long, deep inhales and 3 long exhales. And if you can lengthen the exhale a little bit longer than the inhale, it'll be even more grounding for you, but you don't have to. Just bringing your awareness to a full breath in and a full breath out 3 times instantly changes your mindset, because your mind goes, oh, we're here now. Okay. So instead of being up here thinking about the future or worrying about the past, we're actually here. We're right here in the moment. I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm breathing. My kids might be screaming around me, or my phone might be ringing, or what have you, but I'm breathing and I'm taking 3 big breaths and I'm there. So that's the first thing I would say to folks who are feeling a little bit overwhelmed in a moment. The other thing in the moment that you can do is actually bring your awareness down to your feet. So you can like get grounded on your feet, softly bend your knees, and then shift your weight from side to side and front to back, and feel the leg bones support you. We have a saying in yoga that energy follows awareness. So wherever your awareness goes, energy flows. So it's kind of like a little brother or a little sibling or like a younger cousin, right? So it's like always wants to be where awareness is. So wherever your awareness goes, energy flows. So if your awareness goes down to your feet, down to the legs, feeling the bottoms of your feet, noticing the shift of your weight, energy will go, wait, where did awareness go? And follow right down. What happens with that is the downward energy is actually very calming. Almost think of it like tethering a air balloon, like a hot air balloon down to the ground. If you don't tether it down, it'll float off into space. So the mind, if you don't tether it down, it's gone, right? I mean, you're off and running. But if you bring your awareness down to your feet, you can actually find that groundedness, that earthy groundedness that you need in order to, just find a little bit more clarity in your day. There's that power of the pause, right? A lot of us are reacting right now to stressors. So like stressor happens, reaction, stress happens, reaction. And but getting grounded or breathing will give you an opportunity to just find a smidge of space between when you get stressed out and when you react. And it could potentially be the difference between you like yelling at your kids or being like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I see their perspective. I see my perspective. Let me do this instead. Or you might still yell, but at least you're yelling from a place of choosing to yell versus having it choose for you. So so those are kind of like the 2 things I tend to do during the day. Like if I'm really having a moment, I either take 3 deep breaths or I get my feet underneath me and I get really grounded.
I love that second one. And also because it's so tactile, like it's so tactile. And when you added in that the awareness follows the energy follows awareness.
Yeah, energy follows awareness.
There's almost something lovely too about not having to do anything to ground. Like I can move my body and I don't have to do anything else to feel grounded. I don't have to shift my mind. I mean, maybe other things will follow from it, but it was sort of what I really appreciate and what I feel so grateful for in that those examples is sort of, that is all I have to do, and other things will come along with them.
That's right. Everything else just
That's
falls.
so peaceful.
Yeah, and you can do it anywhere. I mean, I'm really anxious right now when I go to the grocery store. So I find myself kind of standing. I've always hated the grocery store, but now like really hate it. I find myself standing in line like, okay, or, you know, and it's like, wait a minute, okay, where are my feet? You know,
Yeah.
and nobody knows that I'm doing it, but it's grounding to me.
Right. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So those are my questions. Is there anything I'm missing or anything else you want to share?
No, I think this has been really lovely just to talk with you and to just share my own experiences. You know, like I think a lot of people forget that, you know, just because we have the tools doesn't mean we use them all the time. So it's important to remember we're all human, and that it's okay to just, I think it's really just important to just say it's okay to not be okay right now, and to be kind, self-awareness, self-kindness. Yeah.
Thank you. And if someone wants to find you, why don't you give a little shout out
Oh
to you?
yeah, sure. Oh, thanks. Yeah, you're so sweet. So our studio is serenityyogastudio.net. So that's a lot, but that's the name of it. And then my other private work is called thepathtoserenity.com, and you can find me there, where I help folks with anxiety. So both of those spots.
Beautiful. Did you hear the banging upstairs?
Yeah.
Oh, what a lovely closing noise.
Perfect. It's perfect.
It's perfect. Thank you so much for doing this. It was such a pleasure to talk with you, and I feel like I have some new tools in my tool belt, which is
Awesome. Thank you, Beth. Thanks for offering it. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, you too.